In attendance? Yes. All right, I'd like a vote for a closed session for a director's evaluation, and this is a roll call vote.
So moved.
A motion.
Second.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes.
Trustee Haynes?
Yes.
Trustee Kleinman?
Yes.
Trustee Sullivan?
Yes.
Trustee Trudeau?
Yes.
Thank you.
We are going to close session.
We'll be back at 7 p.m.
Right, I now reconvene this meeting at 7 p.m. Jodine, I'm all turned around, I apologize. Jodine, have we taken attendance?
We have.
Beautiful. Now I will call for public comment on the 2026-2027 budget. Any public comment? Seeing none. I will now move on to a motion for the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed? Now can I have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? That passes. Now moving on to public comments. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to speak before the board. Topics must be related to Ann Arbor District Library Board of Trustees or matters within their authority. To speak during the allotted time on the agenda for public comment, please fill out a public comment form with the executive assistant before the allotted time. Participants may only speak once per meeting, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. You can also reach the board by emailing boardcomments@aadl.org. The AADL public comment policy can also be found at aadl.org/public comment. Jodine, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to communications from trustees. Are there any trustees that would like the opportunity to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to financial reports with Eli.
Okay. Financial report begins on the page marked 25 in your packet. We will, of course, talk about the budget when we get to that item on the agenda for next year. But where we're at for this year is a very strong position. As of right now, we have received 101.84% of the budget, budgeted revenue. That's pretty much where it will end up, a little bit more, just as the remaining months is really the time of year when money trickles in. It is also the time of year where in some cases we're paying back out as people are winning their tax tribunals. So then we have to refund some of them. So that happens. I just approved one of those today. So the unassigned fund balance right now is $7.5 million as of April 30th. That is after that $2.8 million transfer to the Capital Projects Fund. Capital Projects Fund stands at just a little bit over $5 million. If you'll turn to the next page, page 26. So our total revenues, 85% of budget after 83% of the fiscal year. That's as they accruing them as they go. Actual expenditures are 74.8% of the budget after 83% of the fiscal year, and so far that puts us on an increase to net assets of $2.3 million. We'll see where that winds up. We are entering the time of year where there are a couple of big ticket items, but also when we get to the final month, we will be squaring up the actual revenue versus the accrued revenue, so we should be in good shape. But there will be at the June meeting, there will be a adjustment that we bring to you to adjust line items in preparation of the end of the year. All just moving things within the approved budget from one line item to another to make sure that no lines finish the year over budget. I just want to point out on page 27, we are expecting another gift or two from the Friends. We'll hear from them in a little bit. But that's all going well. And then just looking on page 29 about the few line items that are over, things we've been talking about throughout the year. Copier expense is running a little hot, but it's a very small number of dollars. Legal expense is a little bit over. I expect we'll need to transfer some into that. Operating supplies, because of a change that we made in terms of what goes in operating supplies and what goes in capital expenditures, that will need an adjustment at the end of the year. And the one other line is that utilities is just right on the money. We'll see if we might wind up making an adjustment. One of the challenges is that we have to guess what those adjustments should be for the last meeting. And sometimes when we actually close the books, we have to put enough in to make sure that after the books are closed, that we don't need any further adjustments. So usually we tend to be very conservative in transferring more than we're likely to need from one fund to another to make sure that none of the line items finish the year over budget. And that is the financial report. Any questions?
Wonderful. Seeing none, we will move into committee reports, starting with me and the executive committee, of which we discussed the budget, which is going to be discussed at length tonight, as you can see in your packets. Additionally, Eli's performance review and next steps there. And I believe that would close us out. So we can move on to budget and finance with Lisa.
Budget and Finance Committee did not meet since the last meeting. If you recall, we brought the draft budget to our prior, to the April meeting for discussion, and then we'll be, I think, voting on that later tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lisa. Now moving on to facilities committee with Scott.
Yeah, we met on the 5th. Not a whole lot. The Westgate generator project, as of then, was still plodding along. Everything was lined up, and we're waiting for approvals and other things from DTE et al. But it seems like that's all ready to go, and just a matter of like letting all the pieces fall into place. The plan is there. Same with the ALF. Not a lot of change as of the 5th from where we were before. Engineering details are getting worked through, and we should be seeing a budget for that soon. So with that's the additional building and the parking lot work out there. And then we did get an update on there will be some flat work done at Mallett's Creek by the entrance and the bus stop. So that's repaving some of the areas, trying to get that done after school starts, and not during the summer when branch activity is way up. Also some work at Pittsfield and some trench drains at Traverwood and some concrete leveling. So there might be a little bit of disruption of those branches depending on when that stuff lands, but we're gonna try to plan it around the branch activity so it's as minimally disruptive as possible. But I think the one big one was the parking lot at, where's my notes? I remember talking about it and I don't see it. One of the parking lots is going to have to be closed. Do you remember which one?
Well, Traverwood, we'll have to close the underground garage to replace the trench drain.
Yeah.
And then Mallett's, it's likely that we will have to have a closure because of the amount of work.
Right, that's what I was thinking, yeah. So Traverwood will likely stay open, but the garage will close, and then Mallett's we might have to close while the parking lot gets repaired.
Which wouldn't be something that likely happened during summer game.
Right, yeah, not during the summer game, right. And that was all from Facilities Committee.
Thank you so much, Scott. Now we move on to the library report with Eli.
Okay, if you can bring the slides up on the screen here. So here's our report for May of 2026. All right, our stat of the month, what I'd like to do today as we're approving a budget is look at the top 5 libraries in Michigan in a couple of different metrics. This is based on the Library of Michigan state aid reports. The most recent year for those is the previous year, so July 24 to June 2025, right? So looking at that year, these are the top 5 libraries in Michigan by total revenue. So number 1 is Detroit Public Library at about almost $39 million. Number 2 is Kent District Library, about $30.6 million. Number 3 is us at $21.3 million. Number 4 is Kalamazoo District Library at $15.1 million. Number 5 is Grand Rapids Public Library at $14.4 million. So if you look at that by capita, we are about $120 per capita. Kalamazoo is extremely similar to us. Other libraries are a little bit less, but when you look at what the entire range of dollars per capita of Michigan libraries are, there's some libraries that are as low as $20 or $30 per capita, very small libraries. There are some libraries that are as high as $400 or $500 per capita. Those are also mostly small libraries because then the amount of money it takes to operate a base library with a small audience. But there are certainly libraries that are a peer to us in size that are more in the $200 or $200 per capita line. So we're really pretty in the middle in terms of dollars per capita for the state of Michigan. Here's total square feet of library space. Number 1 is Detroit Public Library with 560,000 square feet. Number 2 is Kent District Library with 333,000 square feet. Number 3 is Grand Rapids Public Library with 211,000 square feet. Number 4 is us with 180,000 square feet. Number 5 is Monroe County Library System with 152,000 square feet. One thing I'd point out about this does not include the ALF, because the ALF is not yet a formal library outlet. It may become that at some point when you can pick up holds there and things like that. We use it for a lot of little things, but it does not yet count toward the public square feet numbers. And even when you operate a public building, the staff space still counts toward that public square feet. So eventually, and that's about an additional 50,000 square feet out at the plaza between the warehouse space and the office space. So that will come in once you can pick up holds there or do other sorts of activities, which are still off in the future. But you can see in terms of square foot per capita, Grand Rapids has a little bit more, but we're right in there. This is really relatively narrow range for this across the state. Here's top 5 Michigan libraries by visits. So this is the raw number of visits. Number 1 is Kent District Library, 2.2 million visits. Number 2 is us, 1.4 million visits. Number 3 is Capital Area District Libraries. It's about 751,000 visits. Number 4 is West Bloomfield Township District Library, 738,000 visits. Number 5 is Genesee District Library, 689,000 visits. So if you look at visits per capita here, we're pretty high. West Bloomfield Township is, it just says out there a little bit on visits per capita. It's not a competition, of course. This is just to frame this up and see where we fit in to the rest of the state. I've got one more stat here, total program attendance. So what this is total attendees, the top 5 for library, and then I've broken those out as average attendees per program. One thing that's really very clear when you get into library data is the biggest determinant is how do you count it and what are you counting, right? And what you call a program and what you don't call a program makes a big difference here. As you can see, Kent District Library, the most attendees with 295,000. Monroe County Library System was second with 178,000. We're third with 132,000. But you can see Monroe County Library System is having almost 10 times as many programs as we are, the way that they count them, right? And that depends on what you call a program, right? Detroit Public Library, 82,000, and Clinton Macomb with 67,000. And you can see our average attendees per program. That's just the number of total attendees divided by the number of programs to give you a sense of what the scale of those programs are. And we're a clear outlier in terms of attendees per program. We tend to be doing more big things across all of that. But that includes all of our programs. We also have, many libraries will cap attendance at story times and routine programs, require registration and hold it to a low number. We don't do that here. So a lot of times those events are in this average range. Is very common for a story time with our hardworking storytellers to have that many people turning out week after week after week, and often multiple times a week. We have many families that go to all the story times, regardless of where they are. And then one last one is just physical checkouts. So just to compare this all, top 5 libraries by physical checkouts in Michigan. Number 1, Kent District Library, 5.1 million checkouts. Number 2, us with 4.6 million. Number 3, Capital Area with 1.6 million. Number 4, West Bloomfield with 1.2 million. And number 5, Clinton Macomb with another 1.2 million. And you can see, again, we are a real outlier there in checkouts per capita. Although, again, this is one that is highly susceptible to your policy and procedures around how the collection is used. For example, we have unlimited renewals, so that plays into that number heavily. So just wanted to run through those. Any questions about those, just to kind of see where we sit with the other libraries in the state? All right. So upcoming events. June 9th is the start of Summer Game 2026. Starts with lawn and library codes starting on day 1, the release of building codes and the first set of business codes going up. The Summer Game Shop will also be viewable right on opening day, but orders can't be placed until July 10th. So you got a month to earn points before the shop opens for business. June 12th is the first Friday badge drop with leagues opening as well. As you may know, you can make a private league and invite people to your league. So it's basically a private leaderboard. It's been a very popular service. And on July 11th, the Summer Game Spectacular at Vets Park. August 21st, the Summer Game Skate at Yost Ice Arena. And August 30th, the Game Over Gala right here at the Downtown Library. So Summer Game coming up fast. Here's some more upcoming events. June 13th and 14th, A2CAF, featuring John Patrick Green of Investigators, Victoria Jameson of Roller Girl, Kazu Kibushi, Amulet, who's been here before, Pedro Martin, Asteroid Andy. That's all coming up June 13th and 14th at the Downtown Library. June 20th from 5 to 10 p.m., please all mark your calendars. That will be the AADL Summer Festival Party at the Tent. That is open to staff and patrons and everybody who would like to come and join us at the top of the park. We'll have cookies and refreshments and summertime fun. Of course, it will be a game code. Good chance to catch me in the code on my shirt if you come to that event on June 20th. Or you can just tackle me at the grocery store the way that it normally happens. June 21st is Make Music Day. All kinds of related events all day long at the Downtown Library, plus Sousa Palooza at Top of the Park. Sousa Palooza is a one-day wind band. And this is something that we're trying for the first time this year. It will be conducted by Colonel Jason Fettig, retired, former director of the Marine Band, who's currently director of bands at the University of Michigan. And we already have over 150 musicians signed up to play in this. What's really magic about it is that we've got senior citizens, college kids, adults, and school kids all participating in that band together. And if you are a musical family, it is extremely rare that everybody gets to play in a band together. That's just not an experience that generally music people get to have. So that is super fun that that's coming up, and that will be on June 21st. One day, there's a rehearsal, and then you play, and that's that. So it should be a lot of fun. I hope everyone will join us for that. AADL in the community, the latest addition to the downtown lobby shops is True Timbuktu, who just opened a few weeks ago. They sell authentic handmade art, clothing, jewelry, fabric, crafts, and cultural pieces from Mali and across West Africa. True Timbuktu is open on Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 6 p.m., and they join Silky Grooves Vintage and Vinyl and Wander and Gather in the downtown library lobby shop space. So welcome to True Timbuktu. Great to see them moved in, and looking forward to them selling some great stuff to the patrons of the library. Silky Grooves will be moving out this summer, and we have already selected who will be coming in after Silky Grooves. That's Hodgepodge Books, and they sell bookbinding supplies and handmade book journals. It'll be wonderful to see them in the library as well. All right, here's our staff spotlight for this month. This is Khadija Dean. She's a part-time desk clerk. She's worked at AADL for 2.5 years. I forgot how to read in elementary school. Despite entering kindergarten reading above grade level, I later fell behind because my teacher stopped tracking my progress. And as my mom would say, my open school was a little too open for me. I later spent 3rd through 5th grade in intensive language arts and pilot reading programs at a less open school to catch up, and reached an 8th grade reading level by 5th grade. I would later go on to obtain my bachelor's in political science and English from the University of Michigan, the latter of which was a love letter to myself and the journey it took to master the written word, and my Juris Doctorate from Temple University Beasley School of Law. Whether I'm reading a fantasy novel or case law, I value that words inform us, make us think, inspire us, help us escape to new lands, and allow us to advocate for what we believe in. But most of all, I'm forever grateful to the educators, retired teachers, and college students who gave of their time and opened up those worlds to me. Opened those worlds up to me. Thank you, Khadija. She does a wonderful job on desk here at the library. All right, and here's our mention of the month from Ground Cover News. It's Print Day. This week's cover story spotlights the AADL Lobby Shops initiative, providing affordable retail space for small local business. You can see a lovely cover photo of Silky Grooves there right on the cover of Ground Cover. AADL partners with Ground Cover News on their podcast, Ground Cover Speaks, where authors read their pieces from upcoming issues. Ground Cover also recently launched a radio show on WCBN Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m. So always happy to support Ground Cover and what all they're doing. Here's our compliment of the month from a comment card. I love the library so much. I love reading, the smell of a new book, and learning new things. The library seems to bring people together through our differences and similarities. Anytime I need a book, I go to the library. One thing I would say is many times I just don't know what book to read next, so what I would love was if you could send kids and librarians recommendations. So we didn't actually have a way to follow up with this patron, so hopefully they will ask at the desk on their next visit, and I'm sure our staff on desk will have lots of recommendations for them. So thank you for that wonderful comment. And here's a postcard of the month. Dear Nerd Night hosts, I don't know how you make every A2 Nerd Night fun, friendly, and food for thought, but so glad you do. I've started planning my visits to A2 to include the second Thursday of the month. Hope to see you all at Top of the Park, Lori. Sent sometime in May of 2026, a lovely postcard from Colorado. All right, here's our complaint of the month, and I don't want the friends to feel stressed out about this at all. We got a very upset comment over the weekend, which reads, when you have these, figure out better parking and signage so you don't completely bleep things up for people who have to get to medical appointments or live in the neighborhood. You're being terrible neighbors today. I responded to this patron, apologized for the problem. We did not receive any other complaints from people attending the sale or from anyone else or from the township so far about traffic. It was pretty hairy out there at times. But overall, this is not the first time that we've had the bag sale out there and or large events, and it seems they did have people directing traffic for a period of time, so it seems, aside from this fellow's unfortunate experience, mostly have gone pretty well. But I wanted to share that and say we're very sorry that we were terrible neighbors today, and we will endeavor to improve as time goes on. And a good reason for us to expand the parking lot, because I think a lot of the problem was people waiting to get a spot in the parking lot. All right, one last thing I just want to point out is remembering Alfred Sloat. Alfred Sloat was a kids author who lived here in Ann Arbor, passed away at the age of, I think he was 93, just a couple weeks ago, and wrote all kinds of beloved kids books, a lot of sports novels. This is a book of his that I loved as a kid called My Robot Buddy, which was such an interesting relic of the time, because the main plot of the book is that the kid lives alone out in the rural area, and his family is struggling to decide whether they should spend their money that they've saved up on either an anthropomorphic sentient robot friend for him or a car phone, because those are the two equivalent expenses. The plot, here's a spoiler, is resolved when they realize they can use the radio in the robot's belly button for dad to make business calls during the day. So I adored this book, My Robot Buddy. You can see how well I remember it. Thank you, Alfred Sloat. We've received a large number of donations in honor of Mr. Sloat, who asked that donations be given to AADL in lieu of flowers for his funeral. So big thanks to the family, and big thanks to Alfred Sloat for all the children that you reached with your writing over your career. And that's my presentation. Any questions or comments?
Where do people sign up for Palooza?
All right, so if you go to aadl.org/makemusic, there is a, you'll see it all there. aadl.org/makemusic, there's a link to sign up for Palooza, and we'll be distributing the music in early June. Have a little bit of time to practice.
My wife plays clarinet. She's already signed up.
Awesome.
Amazing.
That's
My
terrific.
across the street neighbors met playing tuba in the U of M marching band, and now their son also plays tuba, and I need to make sure they know about it.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like a familiar story. That's amazing. Okay, thank you all.
Great, thank you, Eli. We're going to keep with you because we're going to move on to old business, where we will hear about an update on the redevelopment of the downtown library.
Okay, so last month you approved the agreement. I signed the agreement on May 4th. We are expecting to receive the countersigned copy this week. So we should be in good shape. And we are starting the discussion about the details in the easement development and construction agreement, which we will have basically from the date that it's signed, a maximum of 90 days to sign, which means that this should be all done. We should be ready to close the transaction before the end of August. So that puts us in very good shape for moving forward, and we will have more information about that as the details in the EDCA get settled. We are also working toward after the EDCA is settled, we'll have some public engagement prior to releasing a request for proposals, and that's something that will be coming this fall. So stay tuned for that, and that's all we have at the moment.
Thank you, Eli. Seeing no further commentary, we will now discuss the acquisition of the Ann Arbor Observer.
Yeah, and we are just about to be resuming this conversation. We've been working out some details with the assistance of the Lenfest Institute. We've have some ideas about how to structure things that look like they work for everybody. Our council is running down a couple last questions to make sure that everything looks good, and then we will be resuming that conversation, and we will probably be looking at a revision of the non-binding term sheet that we had signed back in August. Revise that to govern next steps. And I'll have more details for you after we get that process really rolling again. But thanks to Lenfest Institute for all their consulting and yet to come.
Amazing, thank you. Now moving on to new business. We have a resolution to approve the annual budget for the fiscal year 2026 to 2027. Pursuant to Act 2, Michigan Public Acts of 1968, as amended, before adoption of a budget, a public hearing shall be held as required by Act Number 43 of the Public Acts of the Second Extra Session of 1963, as amended, parentheses, Act 43, and Act Number 267 of the Public Arts of Michigan 1976, as amended. Pursuant to Act 43, notice of a public hearing on the proposed budget of the district library must be given by publication in a newspaper of general circulation in the library district at least 6 days prior to the date of such a hearing. The board, after due and proper notice, conducted a public hearing on Monday, May 18th, 2026, on the approval of the proposed budget. The board resolves as follows. The board approves and adopts the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027, as presented, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor, please.
Let's have some discussion.
Thank you. We should. Now let's discuss.
Okay, so a few things I'd just like to point out about the proposed budget. The main thing is that if you look down the proposed 2026, 2027 column, at the bottom, there's two $1 million figures. Those are two separate figures. One is that we have budgeted $1 million for capital outlays and minor equipment. I don't expect that we'll spend all of that, but we want to be in a position to be able to have surprises over the course of the year without necessarily dipping into the capital fund. But also, this is a budget that budgets $1 million less of expenditure than it budgets of revenue. With the planned, and you can see here, a planned transfer from the general fund to the capital fund of $1 million. When we actually get to the end of the fiscal year and we've received our audited financials, that number will be more than that if we wind up with surplus dollars. But we are starting the year by budgeting to put $1 million into the capital fund as we are continuing to prepare our finances for a major capital project. That's the most noteworthy thing of the budget. Otherwise, it's continuing as we have been. I will note that there's a Headley reduction fraction this year, brings us from 1.8173 to 1.8118. So that is now our new ceiling of what we can levy, 1.8118 mils, as reduced by the Headley amendment. But the tax base continues to grow healthily. Also this year, we have opted out of the DDA. The DDA did expand their borders, so we will be receiving the money that was previously captured by the DDA as part of their finances as well. So those are the highlights. Any questions or any comments on the budget?
I will say as a comment, this is my 4th year on the board and the 4th year that we have offered a balanced public budget to our patrons and the folks in Ann Arbor. And I think that this is incredible, of course, to my wonderful trustees, but also our phenomenal staff and very thoughtful administration too. I think that this is representative of us acknowledging what a topmost priority is in the management of a public budget, which is diligence. And I'm very proud that this will enable us to have and continue our excellent services, our world-class resources, and our delightful experiences that folks come to know the library for. I'm very excited. Seeing no further discussion, we can now move on to a vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? Seeing none, the budget passes. Now we will move on to a resolution to authorize millage rate to be levied by taxing authorities. The Board of Trustees of the Ann Arbor District Library, the library, has given due reflection to the budget and operational requirements of the library as to the 2026-2027 fiscal year. The Board of Trustees is desirous of providing for the appropriate certification of operational millage relative to the library. We are going to round robin this. The board resolves as follows: that as to the 2026-2027 fiscal year of the Ann Arbor District Library, and as to that portion of said library within the city of Ann Arbor, and that portion of the library within the territory, townships, or areas outside of the city of Ann Arbor, the voted millage for library operational purposes shall be the amount of 1.8118 mils.
2, that the foregoing amounts are levied by the Ann Arbor District Library, and the Secretary of the Board of Trustees is authorized and directed to report the same as the library tax levy to the proper assessing officers of the appropriate agencies, and the Secretary may provide copies of this resolution when requested by any appropriate agency.
3, that the amounts certified are essential for the fiscal year of the Ann Arbor District Library commencing July 1st, 2026, except as subsequently altered or amended by appropriate certification.
4, that a certified copy of this resolution may be issued as though the original with the certification provided.
5, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded.
Wonderful. Before discussion, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Now we discuss.
And this is just the resolution that then approves the millage rate as called for by the budget.
So just for context, when the voters originally approved the millage for the library, it was 2%. And the state law that is known as the Headley Amendment is what causes the reduction of this rate as property values goes up. So it keeps the revenue neutral relative to new development, which is it gets complicated. But in general, like our tax rates go down over time because of Headley. And if we did want to go back to the 2%, we'd have to go back to the voters. Which we are not intending to do. So we're just asking for what we're legally allowed to ask for as approved by the voters in the past.
Thank you for that, Scott. Very helpful. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? This passes. Now we'll move on to a resolution to adopt the 2025-2026 budget as line item budget and compliance of disbursements. Whereas on an annual basis, the board adopts an operating budget for the library, and whereas the Michigan Department of Treasury's Uniform Accounting Procedures Manual includes the following requirements for approval of disbursements.
All disbursements must be approved by the legislative body prior to disbursement unless addressed otherwise in the charter. The legislative body may establish a formal policy to authorize payments prior to approval to avoid finance or late charges and to pay appropriated amounts and payroll, including related payroll taxes and withholdings. This policy must be very limited, and a list of payments made prior to approval must be presented to the legislative body for approval.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that, 1, appropriations by the board. As the legislative body of the library, the board hereby appropriates for the fiscal year 2026-2027 the total amount of $23,796,000 for the expenditure categories set forth in the budget.
2, disbursements for payroll and related payroll taxes and withholdings. As provided by the Uniform Accounting Procedures Manual of the Department of Treasury, the Director of the Library, the Deputy Director of the Library, and the Facilities Director of the Library, HR Manager or Finance Manager of the Library, each as authorized officer, are hereby authorized to provide for the disbursement of library funds for payroll, including related payroll taxes and withholdings, provided such disbursements are within the budgeted amounts set forth in the approved budget.
3, disbursements for recurring expenses that are necessary to avoid finance of late charges. As provided by the Uniform Accounting Procedures Manual of the Department of Treasury, each authorized officer is hereby authorized to provide for the disbursement of library funds for payments that are for recurring expenses and are necessary to avoid finance or late charges, such as payments for utilities, equipment leases, and similar expenses, provided such disbursements are within the budgeted amounts set forth in the approved budget.
Or we just have 4? Sorry.
Oh, that was 5.
I'm doing 5, okay.
Oh, wait.
No, 4.
Yeah,
I'm doing 4, okay, yeah, that's where I lost track. Okay, disbursements for appropriated amounts as provided by the Uniform Accounting Procedures Manual of the Department of Treasury. Each authorized officer is hereby authorized to provide for the disbursement of library funds for expenditures that have been previously appropriated by the board pursuant to paragraph number 1 of this resolution, provided such disbursements are within the budgeted amounts set forth in the approved budget.
5, presentation of disbursements to the library board. All disbursements made pursuant to the authority of this resolution must be presented to the library board for approval at a subsequent board meeting. 6, limitation of disbursements to $45,000. Notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in this resolution, no authorized officer shall be allowed to approve any single expenditure in excess of $45,000 unless that expenditure has been previously approved in a resolution by the library board or an agreement authorized by the library board.
7, requirement for dual signatures. Nothing in this resolution shall be construed as modifying the current library board policy that requires 2 authorized signatures on all checks, excluding payroll checks in the amount of $2,500 or more.
8, prior resolutions. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded.
Nice job, team. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Now we discuss.
Does anyone have any questions about this? This is we pass this resolution annually. The $45,000 number is specified in the library policy about what the approval threshold of staff without going to bid or to bringing to the board, adjusted by the CPI.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? It passes. Now we move on to a resolution of thanks to Karen Tuthill upon her retirement. Am I saying that correctly?
Tuthill.
Tuthill. That sounds much more correct. The board resolves that it would like to officially thank Karen Tuthill upon her retirement for her dedicated service as an employee of the Ann Arbor District Library from October 9th, 2013 to May 1st, 2026. 2, that all provisions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to thank Karen for all of her years of service to the library and wish her the best in her retirement.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? The resolution of thanks passes. Now we move on to a resolution to approve the space use agreement with the Friends of the Ann Arbor District Library. The board resolves that the president of the Board of Trustees of the Ann Arbor District Library be authorized to sign the one-year space use agreement along with the co-presidents of the Board of the Friends of the Ann Arbor District Library. 2, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Now, we discuss.
So this is our annual space use agreement with the Friends of the Library. There's only a few small changes for this year, most of which, well, all of which have been discussed with the Executive Committee and with the Finance Committee as appropriate. But it authorizes the Friends to continue to operate in our space and use the space for the next year. What we would like to do at this point is bring up our Friends co-president. So this is Marcia Major, one of the co-presidents of the Friends of the Library.
And this is Jackie Sasaki, who is the other co-president. We'd like to thank the library board for renewing the space use agreement and for the use of the space for the bookshop and also for our online bookshop and all of our other operations. By the end of this year, we anticipate that gifts to the library will total $89,000. The gifts this year have been used for school visits to the library and the scroll-a-thon and other activities. The Friends have had a really eventful and fruitful year this year. We're excited about our new management team. We have Jill Zimmerman and Barry Regan, who have seamlessly taken over operations and have really big, exciting plans for us for the future. We'd like to give special thanks to Rachel Estiva for her over 7 years of service and also for so efficiently moving the bookshop from the downtown library to Parkland Plaza. Special thanks also to our over 60 volunteers who keep the bookshop running. They're really, I would say, genuinely interesting people and just a pleasure to work with. And we couldn't function without them. It's a wonderful group. And lastly, thanks again to the board and EY for your continuing and invaluable support. Thank you.
Thank you. All of those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? Seeing none, that resolution passes. Thank you for being here. Jodine, are there any further public comments?
No public comment.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed? We are now adjourned.